Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at how I've made around 4 billion ISK over the last 2 to 3 days. So if you're not aware, we are currently in the middle of the Crimson Harvest, which is the Blood Raider event that CCP runs from time to time. Well, I've been taking advantage of this event for the last couple of days, and as I said, I've made around 4 billion ISK, and I'm going to go to the ins and outs of how to do it. Now, that's not to say that obviously this is for everyone, or everybody could do this, but I thought I would share it due to the fact that it's quite a large amount of ISK in such a short time. I thought it'd make quite an interesting video. And again, I think it's a great example highlighting what is possible in EVE and the changes that do come from time to time, all these events, etc. How you can obviously make quite a substantial amount of profit if you are in the right place at the right time with the right equipment, etc. So with this event comes two types of sites that you can run. There are the Shining Flame bases and there are the Gauntlet sites. Now the two operate slightly differently, as in the Gauntlet sites will give you actual ISK for vanquishing the enemies, where the Shining Flame bases do not. However, the big difference, or the one that we're interested in here, is the Shining Flame bases will give out Warclones. Now these are new items that have just recently been added, whether it's just for this event or whether these will continue to drop from other areas in the game is currently unknown. But I'm under the impression, although I haven't actually done any of these sites, the Shining Flame bases, that you can get up to 100 of these Warclones for every site that you do. Now the thing that makes these quite interesting is that the Blood Raiders in Delve, etc. will buy these back at 1 million ISK a pop. And as we can see here, we are currently buying them for around 800,000 ISK, give or take, after you take taxes and the rest of it into account. So that gives us a healthy markup of 200,000 ISK per unit, and as you can see here, there are a good number of them being collected or sold each and every day. Now from where we are in the forge at the moment all the way to Delve is a good number of jumps, and you're looking at about 30 to 40 50 jumps depending where you're going. So the vast majority of mission runners or anybody doing these in high sec doesn't want to be going out into low sec, null sec, etc. in order to sell these. They're better off just running the missions and selling these on the market for the current cost that they're currently going for. So the mission runners, as I said, are quite happy to sell them, and we are quite happy to pick them up and move with them. But obviously we will have to transport these over quite a distance, but the nice thing about them is they are very low volume. They're only 0.1 M3, so you can have a good number of them before any significant volume starts to stack up. However, due to these being 800,000 ISK each, in order to get a decent volume, etc., you are going to need quite a decent amount of ISK backing you in order to do it. At the moment I'm spending about 8 billion ISK each and every day buying these and then taking them off to sell. And if we do the calculations on that, the ISK that I say we're making on this from 10,000 units a day at 200,000 ISK, we're making 2 billion ISK. So I'm currently buying my last batch here, and that will have me a total of 25,000 of these I will have bought and sold, assuming that I manage to get to my destination to sell these, and that makes me 5 billion ISK. However, there are taxes to come off this, and although I can sell them directly to a buy order negating some of the sell, I don't have standings to the Delve or the Blood Raiders, so I will actually not make 200,000, I will only make 150,000 ISK. However, that still brings me out at 3.75 billion ISK, which for not a great deal of work is pretty good going. As I say, I've made that over 2.5 days. I've technically made more than that because I was getting better sell order prices than this, but as the time has gone on, the price has been slowly rising. So the price gets worse slowly but surely as more people are starting to realize the huge amounts of ISK that you can make. So like most things in EVE, there is risk and reward, and this is no different. So in order to make the 4 billion ISK, I've had to invest 16 billion. So the returns are actually quite good, however the risk is also quite high. So not only is there the biggest conflict in EVE history currently going on in Delve, which makes life a little more interesting, but in order to get to Delve generally there are quite a lot of low-sec areas that you will have to go through. And although you can do it in a smaller ship, I've got a shuttle here that is carrying currently 100, in order to be carrying any significant volume you're going to need something a little more chunky. And so for this risky endeavour I've been using the Prowler. The Prowler is a wonderful ship because it's one of the advanced industrial ships, and you can fit a covert ops cloak to it, which means you can warp well cloaked. Now this still has a little bit of risk to it because we are going through low sec. Now initially obviously you go through low sec and then you will have to traverse some of null sec, and obviously in null sec you can get bubbles, which it isn't bubble immune. So you could potentially use a nullified Tengu or something like that, because again the bay that you have there is quite decent, and again it's very hard to catch a nullified ship. And obviously with the Tengu it's got a decent amount of space in it, so you could use a Tengu quite comfortably. However, I've been using the Prowler, and again that's served me well so far. Obviously the single biggest problem with low sec is gate camps and smart bombs. Now smart bombs obviously can cause you a problem if you are in a relatively untanked ship, so if I was going through in a shuttle it probably wouldn't be particularly advisable, although obviously you can't carry a huge amount. If you do get hit by a smart bomb then you are a goner. There's nothing you can do, where at least for deep space transport, or at least a Tengu has a very good possibility that you're going to get out of it, and because it's coming in cloaked it's a lot harder to time to get the smart bombs to get you when you're coming out of warp. And so here we are currently in Delve, and you can see some of the cells that I've done here to the Blood Raiders, and again this is in advance of me bringing my next load up, so I'm currently in the process of moving a load. By the time this video goes out it will be done and dusted. And if we check the market, as I said earlier, you can see here that it's 1 million ISK per clone bay, and again any of the NPC stations that are listed here will take more. Well, again they're renewing quantities, so the quantity doesn't change, it's pretty much static, so you can literally sell as much as you can physically carry. And so I imagine there are people making vast amounts of this doing this. I haven't made quite as much as I could have done. I was a bit slow to the party, and again you can see on the dates here that I initially bought the 920 up just to check it out to make sure that it was fine, that I wasn't going to have any issues, and then obviously after that I did a slightly bigger load, and this morning I did a much bigger load, and again by the time this airs I will have done an even bigger load. So again it's very viable, it's turned out quite well for myself. Luckily I haven't lost anything in transport yet or in transit, but that doesn't mean that I can't, and again that will ruin my day quite nicely. But I think the big takeaway from this again is change isn't bad, and again it's just about keeping your eyes open and being aware of what is being given out or what has changed, etc., in regards to missions or events or anything like that. So even the special giveaways that the CCP keeps giving, etc., some of these can be quite useful, although most of it ends up being absolute rubbish, but there are the odd gem every now and then that you are given. So the takeaway is just always be mindful of what is changing and what's being added, and again how you can actually profit from that and the ISK potential that can be made. And so something I've never really covered in previous videos is it's often handy to have liquid ISK available or readily available. And although, you know, a lot of the time ISK is tied up in assets, some of them assets can be quite hard to shift if you are in a hurry, where obviously having liquid ISK gives you a bit of air of flexibility, so when something does come up like this, then you're in a position to try and get the most out of it or to pounce on it. And so that's how I made 4 billion ISK over 2 to 3 days, doing the Blood Raider Gauntlet event while actually not doing it at all. So I hope that was interesting, hope you enjoyed that. Again, if you made it this far and you haven't already subscribed, then do please think about it. It is very much appreciated. If you enjoyed the video, leave us a like, drop a comment, do all the good stuff, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening.